Most know son of the Emperor's children, Fabius Bile is a terrible person, but many may not know just how vile he can truly be, as shown in the book Angel Exterminatus, as he truly crosses over from apothecary to necromancer. Cassander had been gene-crafted to dismiss the debilitating effects of fear. His physiology was engineered to block the chemical and neurological responses to the emotions, and his mind has been trained to resist its touch. He had waged the Emperor's wars for hundreds of years and had never let many terrors of the galaxy keep him from his mission. But nothing had prepared him for this. This was fighting against the warriors he still called brothers. In the wake of his failed vengeance on Fabius, the demented slave servitors had hurled him into one of the sepulchral iron-walled chambers with a host of snuffling, stinking beasts. He expected them to attack, to fall upon him with their anatomically impossible weapon limbs and tear him apart. Instead, they had accepted him as one of their own. Only then had Cassander understood that these abominations had once been Legion warriors like him. Whatever Legion they had once been, they were now appalling monsters with drooling, fang-filled mouths and ragged talons, surgical and genetic deviants, monsters with only the last vestiges of their humanity remaining. Only then had he seen how ravaged and distorted his own body had become, bloated beyond recognition and discolored from the poisonous-filled and biological agents injected into his body. His flesh was now a mockery of its once proud perfection. He saw the swelling in his muscles, the hardness of his skin, and the distended protrusions of his bones at every joint. The monsters didn't attack him because he was one of them. Ahead, warriors in black warplate fired heavy guns that tore through the first monsters to escape their captivity. The smell of their blood and their bodies' interior cavities filled Cassander with newly awakened senses, with a need to tear the flesh from their bones. He fought against the sensations, but was carried into the warriors in black despite his reluctance to approach them. He knew they were not his enemy, that they were his brothers. Yet what his brain was telling him and what his body demanded were two very different things. Cassander watched his fellow monsters kill with sweeps of talon paws or with a toxic vomit of bilious fluids. He fought to keep clear of the swirling melee, but inevitably, he found himself face to face with a warrior in gleaming black plate and a fist of the purest silver steel. Cassander threw up his arms, fighting down the urge to rip the warrior's head off. "Iron Hand!" he yelled. "I am of the Legions." His words were mangled by the genetic reshaping of his jawbone, and if the warrior understood him, he gave no sign. The legionary's bolt erupted with flame, and Cassander buckled as the shot struck him square in the center of his chest. The pain was incredible, but instead of blowing him apart from the inside, the shell deflected from his freshly ossified bone carapace. Cassander roared and plucked the bolter from the iron grip of the Space Marine. He snapped the weapon in two and hurled away the broken halves before leaping at the unarmed warrior. One blow broke his helmet open. Another ripped it from the gorget. Fumatic gases hissed around the revealed features, part augmentic, part flesh. Cassander's rage faltered in the face of his opponent's hatred. The Space Marine suddenly had a long combat blade in his hand and drove it into Cassander's flank. The tip scraped along the bone shield before finding a weak point and punching into one of Cassander's lungs. Bloody spittle sprayed the Iron Hand's legionary's face. Cassander reached down and took hold of the warrior's throat, pulling it out in a welter of glistening tubes and squirting arterial blood. With the last of his life, the Space Marine stabbed Cassander twice more, but there was no strength behind the blows. The blade slipped from his fingers as the life went out of him. Cassander rose to his feet, watching the coagulating blood fall from the ruin of tracheal tissue in his grip. He hurled it away, disgusted and horrified at what he had done. A servant of the Empyrean was dead by his hands, and the enormity of the deed struggled to find a place in his mind where it could be understood. Felix Cassander, captain of the Imperial Fist, had murdered a warrior of the Iron Hands. Oily tears streamed down his face, and his stomach lurched with revulsion. He threw back his head and howled as the battle swirled around him in bloodshed and violence. Alone in the midst of rampaging monsters, Cassander knew the true horror of what Apothecary Fabius had done to them.